Hello dear friends, let's start with the next series of Unit 5th, Exception Handling. In this session we are going to cover about multiple catch statements. In the last video we have seen about the different constructs of exception handling. What do you mean by an exception? What are the different types of errors? And exception is known as a runtime error, and we have seen about that to handle an error C++ makes the use of try, catch and throw statements. So we saw that one single try can have multiple catch statements. So in this session we will see how to use multiple catch statements. Again, if any exception is thrown and we don't want to handle that exception, we can rethrow an exception. So what is the syntax to rethrow an exception, and what do you mean by exception specification? So multiple catch statements, that means that we are having multiple catch statements which when a user wants to handle the different exceptions differently, at that time we are making the use of multiple catch statements. For this, actually the user must include the catch statements with different declaration. As for example, if you see for different size balls, we need different size container as seen below. That for a small ball, that small ball can fit in a big container also, in a medium container also, and in the small container also. But if we see a very big ball, it cannot fit into the last container, which is with a small pot. Okay, so we need that particular, for handling that type of ball, we will need a big container. So in this similar manner, if you have a catch statement of type float and your exception, if your catch statement is of type integer and you are throwing a float value, the integer cannot handle it. Okay, in the similar manner, if you are throwing a character value and you are having a catch which handles an integer value, you cannot handle that exception. So for example, how to use multiple catch statement? There will be a single try block, and it can be having that single try block can handle different type of exception and follows one try block. Just say for example, if we are writing if else, we write if and we can write multiple else if statements. In the similar manner, one single try can have multiple catch statements, type 1, type 2 and type number of n types over there. So for example, consider that inside this try block I am checking if a is value less than 0, I throw 1, that is an integer value. Else if a is greater than 0, value of a is greater than 0 and less than 7, then I am going to throw what? A string, that is less characters. I am throwing string. In the first where I have thrown an integer value. Now I am throwing what? A string. Else I say that if both of these conditions are false, I will throw n, that is a character. So I am throwing different types of exceptions. So to handle this, we will need different catch statements. So for example, here we can have catch which is handling an integer value, integer e. So when you throw 1, if a's value is less than 0, you will throw 1 and the handler will directly come to this catch where the integer value is there and print a is less than 0. If the value of a is greater than 0 and in between a less than 7, it will come to the second catch and it will display digits should be more than 7. And if you are throwing an character, it will show that the input is wrong. Okay, accordingly the output will come. So you see a program. In the main function, we are having enter the value for a. We are taking the value from the user. If we will check if the value of a is greater, throw 1. Else if a is greater than 0 and less than 7, you throw less characters. Else throw a character. And accordingly, we are having 3 catch statements. Okay, and return 0. So if you try to execute this code, if in the input, if I enter the value of a as -1, it will give me that a is less than 0. Okay, if I enter the value for a is 4, that is between a is greater than 0 and less than 7, it will display that less characters digits should be more than 7. If I enter the value of a is equal to 10, and it will say that n, it will give that is a is greater than, not is equal to less than 0 also, not less than 7 also, but it is 10 which is apart, then it will give me that input is wrong. Accordingly to it will go to the catch which is throwing an character. So in this way you can have multiple catch statements. So if you want to specify a catch block which can handle any type of exception, as for example we have seen an integer block can handle integer exceptions. If a character block is there, it can handle character exceptions only. If a string block is there, it can handle string exception only. But suppose if you want a catch block which can handle any type of exception which is thrown in the try block, you should use an ellipsis, that is 3 dots between the parentheses enclosing the exception declaration as follows. You have try and you write the whatever statements you want to write inside the try, and when you give a catch, do not write integer, character or anything inside the catch. In the parentheses you just use ellipsis, that is 3 dots. Okay, it should not be 4 dots, it should not be 2 dots, but 3 dots. This is a default catch, or you can say that this is a catch statement which can handle any type of exception. Okay, so how to use a default catch statements? For example, the same program we are taking here, throw a that means I am throwing what? An character, but I am taking integer. Now obviously I am throwing a character, it should not come into catch, and I am having a catch which is having 3 dots, that is can handle any type of exception, and it is displaying default catch. Now when you execute this code, as you are throwing what? A character, it will not go into catch and it will not display caught, but it will go into the catch which is any handling exception, and it will display default exception. Okay, why default exception is coming? Because you are throwing a character which is not actually caught by integer value, that is why it goes into the catch with 3 dots. Now we will see how to rethrow an exception. If an exception is thrown by a particular try block and the catch doesn't want to handle this exception, the catch can again rethrow an exception. But there is a syntax to rethrow an exception. As given, if a catch block cannot handle the particular exception it has got, you can rethrow the exception. The rethrow exception is actually the throw without assignment expression, which causes the original thrown object to be rethrown. You just have to write throw semicolon, only semicolon, without any assignment expression. So for example, I am taking a program where I am trying, inside the try I am taking another try, throw 20. This try has been completed. I have catch integer, it will come handle partially over here, and inside the handle partially, again in the catch block you are throwing the exception. Okay, now when you throw 20, it will come into the catch of integer n, it will display handle partially, and again from that I am writing throw, because this catch is handling the throw exception partially, and you are rethrowing an exception over here. So as you are rethrowing an exception, this particular exception will go outside the try block, first outer catch try block, and here it will handle the remaining exception. Okay, so this is how rethrow exception is there. You have to have throw without any assignment expression. So accordingly the output is being generated. So you understand that rethrowing an exception should be inside the catch and without any assignment expression. Now the third concept which comes, that is exception specification. Exception specification is actually a throw list which lists only those exceptions which can be thrown by a function. This helps in restricting actually the type of a function exception a function can handle. If a function, if you want a function to handle only integer or character type of exceptions, you can write it into the throw list. For example, if I am writing integer g, g is a function which and inside the g function which is having h as a double parameter, we are writing throw int double. That this means that g function can throw only which type of exception? Integer exception and double exception. If apart from there you are writing throw and some string, this will give you a error exception and your program will terminate by calling the built-in function unexpected. So for example, throw is actually when you write throw without anything. Okay, if you don't write anything inside the throw parenthesis, it states that the function will not throw any exception. It will not throw not even integer, not even double, not any of the exception. And in reality this function can still throw exception, but it calls unexpected function much more later. So if no throw list is specified, then the function can throw any type of exception. So for example, if I am writing integer function and just a function name, this means that this function can throw anything. If I am writing integer junk and I am giving throw without any parameters, this means this junk function cannot throw anything. It will not throw anything. An integer hunk function is there, which is throw integer comma float. That means it can throw only which type of values? Integer values and float values. No other values can be thrown. So for example, consider that I am having here class exception is being taken. Okay, understand this. We will discuss about the set unexpected function in the next video series. Here we have taken IO stream and exception header file because we are using set unexpected function over here. Then we have declared three classes, X, Y and Z. Now Z class is becoming the derived class of X class, and class W is there. There is one function named as void my unexpected, which is not a function of any class X, Y, Z, W, but it is just a function where we have displayed that it is unexpected call, and we are throwing one type of exception, that is a string type of exception, hello. Now we are writing f function, and inside the f function we have written throw x comma y. That means while defining this function, we have said that f function can throw only x as well as y objects. It cannot throw any other type of exception. It can throw an exception of class x or class y, no other exception. So if I am writing integer n is equal to 0, if n, okay, if value of n is 1, it will throw x. This is okay. If n I am throw z, this is also okay. Why also okay? Because z is a derived class of x class. That is indirectly, if I am writing throw z, that means I am throwing x. That is why, though here inside the throw list I have not specified z, this will be okay because z is a derived class of x class. And if I am writing throw w, surely this function will call unexpected function directly. Why? Because f function is not allowed to throw x, y other than x or y. So when I am writing throw w, it will throw an exception. Inside the main, when this f function is being called, see this, when f function is being called, after f function we are writing, we are writing the f function in the try catch block, since this function f function can throw an exception, and since it throws any x or y type of exception, we have taken two catch statements, one for catch x and one for y, and accordingly we have displayed the message. So if you see and execute the code, see here we have taken demo function which is throwing integer value and double value. I am taking a is equal to 2, and if a is equal to 1, I will throw 1. Else if a is equal to 2, I am throwing a. Now this is what, first 1 is an integer and a is a character. Else if a is equal to 3, I am throwing what, 4.5, that is a double value. And inside the main function I will try and call the demo function and catch what, integer, exception is being caught, and return 0. Now when I am getting an output, it will give me terminate called after throwing an instance of character. Why? Because we are throwing character which is not allowed to throw by a demo function. That is why it will give you an error that terminate function is being called and an unexpected output is come which we cannot accept it. So this type of thing is known as program specification, and obviously since we are not allowed to throw character value, it will get aborted. So this is how the exception specification works. Exception specification means after the function definition writing the list of the throw statements. So I hope in this session we have learnt about multiple catch statement, what is a default catch statement, how to write a catch which can handle any type of exceptions, and what are the different types of exception specification using the throw list. Thank you. Meet in the next video. Do like and subscribe the channel. Thank you.